For the null hypothesis, the symbols that used to be used were less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. Now it's typical to only use equal to for the null. For the alternative hypothesis, the symbols that are used are less than, greater than, and not equal to. That's what we use for the alternative. So now we're going to look at the examples and express the claim in symbolic form. Then we're going to state whether each one is a left-tailed, right-tailed, or two-tailed test. So let's look at the first one. The mean annual income of employees who took a statistics course is greater than $60,000. So we see that this is a mean and that it's greater than $60,000. So we're going to take our null, and since it's a mean, we use mu, and we know it has to be equal to, because that's what the symbol is used for the null hypothesis, $60,000, because that's what's in the claim. Now we have the alternative, and again it's going to be mu again because it's a mean, and it says greater than 60,000, so we put greater than 60,000. So there's the hypothesis in symbolic form, and now we need to know whether it's a left, right, or two-tailed test. And we can do that by looking at the alternative right here where it says greater than, or it's pointing to the right. This means this is a right-tailed test. And that's how you set it up symbolically and how you can tell whether it's a left, right, or two-tailed test. So let's look at the next one. The proportion of people aged 18 to 25 who currently use illicit drugs is equal to 0.20 or 20%. So it says in the claim the proportion, and that it's equal to 0.20. This 1825 is just information about what's going on. It has no bearing on the symbolic form of the hypothesis, so we can ignore it. So when we put in our null, since it's a proportion, we use p, and it's again equal to because that's the symbol we use, and then the value over here, which is 0.20. Next for the alternative, again it's still p. Now it says it's equal to, which is here, so the alternative to something that's equal is going to be not equal to 0.20. And we again look at the alternative to be able to tell whether it's one-tailed, two-tailed, left, right. And since this has a line through it, this means that this is a two-tailed test. So a not equal to symbol means two-tailed test. Next, the standard deviation of human body temperatures is equal to 0.62 degrees Fahrenheit. So the claim, we talk about standard deviation, and we say that it's equal to 0.62 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, our null hypothesis, and since we're dealing with standard deviation, is going to be sigma, and it's going to be equal to 0.62. That means for the alternative, again, sigma, because it's standard deviation, and since it says it's equal to, our symbol here is going to be not equal to 0.62. And since it's not equal to, we say that this is a two-tailed test. Next, the majority of college students have credit cards. Well, we have very little information here other than saying the majority. So the majority is not a mean. The majority is not a standard deviation. The majority is a proportion. So when we're talking about the hypothesis test in symbolic form, and we're dealing with majority, we're going to say P for proportion. Now it says the majority. Well, what constitutes a majority? That would be anything over 50%. So we're going to say that the null P is going to be equal to 0.50 or 50%, and the alternative is going to be greater than 0.50 since it has to be the majority, and the majority has to be anything greater than 50% or 0.5. And since this is pointing to the right, we say that this is a right-tailed test. So this didn't say anything about numbers or anything like that. It just gives you the only clue being the majority. Had this been said, if this had said the minority of college students, then this would have been less than 0.5. So be careful about the wording, and sometimes you have to use a little bit of logic to figure out what they want. Last, the mean weight of plastics discarded by households in 1 week is less than 1 kilogram. So the mean weight is less than 1 kilogram. So the null hypothesis, since it's dealing with mean, is going to have mu, and again it's equal to 1 kilogram, so 1. Whereas the alternative, again, because it's the mean, we're using mu, and this says less than 1 kilogram, so less than 1. Now it's all set up, so what kind of tail test is it? In the alternative, it's less than, it's pointing to the left, so this is a left-tailed test. So first thing is, when you're trying to find out what the symbol should be, just look to see if it's a mean, a proportion, or standard deviation. It'll be the same for both of them. And then look for what it's saying off to the side. Greater than, equal to, majority, less than, and that'll help you figure out what the other alternative sign should be, whether it's greater than, not equal to, greater than, or less than. Just remember the null should always stay equal to.